Peace, peace, peace. Shalom, shalom. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. And welcome to another day to labor in the vineyard of the Most High with your brother. Another day to get in the work to see what the Most High got to serve. And what we gonna eat on today? We gonna get the answer to a mystery about the 40 days and 40 nights and how he was tempted by Satan after that. So I'm gonna help clarify that using another book that I got that go into the life of Yehoshua. Alright, so we gonna start off just so we can see how the devil tempted us, tempted him, to see the same way how he tempts us. And then we gonna set it up so when I go into the other book, we can clarify the mystery here. But we gonna start in Matthew chapter 16, starting at verse 21. Matthew chapter 16, verse 21. From that time forth began Yehoshua to show unto his disciples how that he must go into Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes. That's the Sanhedrin. Alright, so in this other book we're going to read where he was amongst the Sanhedrin, and the Sanhedrin is the chief priests and the elders, the council that was running things at that time. Alright? And he must suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised again the third day. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Lord, this shall not be unto thee. But he turned and said unto Peter, Get behind thee, get thee behind me, Satan. Thou art an offense unto me, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, but those that be of men. Alright, so we see Satan jumped into Peter to try to tempt Christ right quick. Alright, and that's the same way that Satan come to us. He used other people, or either he would jump in us to change our thoughts to something that's corrupt. Alright, so Peter, because he tried to rebuke him, he tried to make Yehoshua go against the will of the Most High. Alright, by telling him, Be it far from thee, Lord, this should not be unto thee. But Christ, everything with him was about the will of the Most High. So when Peter got them thoughts to try to take him away from the will of the Most High, he instantly recognized the spirit and knew it was Satan. So that's why he said right here, Peter, get thee, and he said unto Peter, Get thee behind me, Satan. He was talking to that spirit that had jumped into Peter, that was trying to take him away from the will of the Father. And with us, it's people that come say things to us that's trying to take us away from the spirit and from following the will of the Most High also. But we got to recognize the spirit that jumped in them. They may be good people, but sometimes a spirit jump into them, just like Peter. Peter was a good guy, but at times he got caught up in his feelings. And what in the second stick, what we read, when we become carnal, sensual, and sensual, we become devilish. And Satan can have power to influence us to do things because our emotions might get the best of us. And that's what happened to Peter a few times. All right, let's keep going. Go to Luke chapter 22. Luke chapter 22, verse 31. And Yehoshua said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith not fail. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. All right. So he telling them, Satan desires to have you, Peter. He desires to have you. And the only reason he wants you is because he can strip you of everything that you've been blessed with. All right. That he may sift you as wheat and take all the good characteristics from you so that you may fall. And that you will be out of alignment with the Most High and you be amongst the wicked. All right. Because he already got the wicked. He done already sifted them as wheat. So the righteous, he come among them, trying to sift them also, to strip them of their blessing and their good standing with the Most High. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. Converted is when the Spirit come upon you. All right, but because at this time, Christ he didn't send the Spirit unto them until the book of Acts, after he had came back, after he had got crucified and resurrected. That's when the Spirit came upon the brethren. So like he telling Peter right here, when thou art converted, when the Spirit come upon you, then strengthen your brethren, so that they also may not be sifted as wheat by Satan and his angels. Go back to Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26, starting at verse 3. Then assembled together, and we go with the Sanhedrin again. Then assembled together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people unto the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas. All right, Caiaphas was the high priest of the Sanhedrin, and consulted that they might take brother Jesus by subtlety and kill him. And consulted that they might take Yehoshua by subtlety and kill him. But they said, not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar among the people. Now go back to Luke. Go back to Luke chapter 22. Back to Luke 22. And verse 52. Then Yehoshua said unto the chief priests and captains of the temple and the elders. All right, he talking unto the Sanhedrin. Then Yehoshua said unto the chief priests and captains of the temple and the elders, which were come to him, be ye come out as against a thief with swords and staves? Why come out against me like I'm a thief with swords and staves? When I was daily with you. When I was daily with you. Pay attention to this part right here, because when we get into this other book, this part right here gonna make it make more sense. When I was daily with you in the temple, ye stretched forth no hands against me. But this is your hour in the power of darkness. Now, go to Luke chapter 4. Luke chapter 4. Starting at verse 1. And Yehoshua, being full of the Holy Spirit, returned from Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, being 40 days tempted of the devil. Being 40 days tempted of the devil. And in those days he did eat nothing. And when they were ended, he afterward hungered. And the devil said unto him, if thou be the Son of God, command this stone that it be made bread. And Jesus answered him, saying, it is written, that man should not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. All right. So when in verse 3, when he says, command this stone that it be made bread, when he referring to that stone, he referring to man. Like right here in the next verse where it says, man should not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. And every righteous person is a stone, a spiritual stone that's supposed to build the spiritual temple, one body full of living stones. Christ be the head cornerstone. All right, the stones represent the people. And the devil, taking him up into a high mountain, showed unto him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. And the devil said unto him, all this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and to whomsoever I will, I give it. If thou therefore will worship me, all shall be thine. And Yehoshua answered and said unto him, get thee behind me, Satan. All right, and remember, that's the same thing he told Peter. So when he up in this mountain, it's a person. The same way Satan jumped into Peter, he jumped into another person to tempt him. And that's what we're going to see. And Yehoshua answered and said unto him, get thee behind me, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. All right, so it's a man trying to get him to serve him that Satan is using. He not just talking to the spirit Satan telling them to get behind him. He talking to a man who the spirit then jumped into. And he brought him to Jerusalem and set him on a pinnacle of the temple. And set him on a pinnacle of the temple. And set him on a pinnacle of the temple. What we just read in Luke, when he said unto them, when I was in the temple with you every day, y'all ain't trying none of this mess. All right, follow me. We gonna eat. And he brought him to Jerusalem and set him on a pinnacle of the temple and said unto him, if thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down from here. For it is written, he should give his angels charge over thee to keep thee. And in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. And Yehoshua answering said unto him, it is said, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. And when the devil had ended all the temptation, when he gave up, when the devil ended all the temptation, he departed from him for a season. Satan work in seasons. He come at you for a season. We're going to go into this book right here. Yehoshua. Another old school book that I got here. Yehoshua. Start at page 34. And in this book, sometime, instead of Yehoshua, it'll say Yesu. So if you heard me say the word Yesu, and not Yehoshua or Yehoshua, just know that I'm talking about Christ. Yesu, Yehoshua, rose quickly in the estimation of his countrymen, in the eyes of his countrymen. And when invited to give his report to the Sanhedrin regarding his operations within his own district of Nazareth, the wise men were all carried away by his extraordinary ability and his well-conceived plan for reviving the national and patriarchal pride. Caiaphas, then high priest, now remember, that was the reason that I read that in Matthew, so we could tie the pieces together. Caiaphas, who was the high priest, that's the same guy. Caiaphas, then high priest, was so greatly impressed by the appearance and manner of this young rabbi, speaking on Yehoshua, and so enthused over his extraordinary gift of oratory, the way he speaks, that he consulted the presiding priest about the advisability of the further advancement of Yehoshua, wishing to honor him with the membership in the Sanhedrin. They was trying to recruit the brother. This new position was quite a surprise to all who knew Yehoshua, And although it had raised him personally very much in the estimation of even his enemies, nevertheless, there were a few left among the priests who envied him and with intense jealousy watched the outcome of his new turn of affairs. Caiaphas was certain he had made an excellent move in creating a new member in the Sanhedrin. Alright, so now you see why I kept reading when he said, when I was with you every day in the temple, y'all ain't tried none of this. Caiaphas was certain he had made an excellent move in creating a new member in the Sanhedrin. He felt that with a young man at the helm of this great and wonderful design hierarchical system, the priesthood would be able to astonish the world and make Rome quiver, shake, and tremble. Caiaphas had a great plan laid for the redemption of Israel from the yoke of Rome and the aggrandizement of his own personal being. So Caiaphas was being deceitful, trying to use Yehoshua for his own personal reasons. All right. So that's the reason that he really tried to bring him on board. And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see how it play out. For he was ambitious and ever in the pursuit of power, speaking about Caiaphas, and an unlimited dominion over his subjects. He desired to be recognized and make his power felt throughout the world. The greater number of men comprising the Sanhedrin were considerably advanced in years and lacked the fire and vim of youth to venture into anything of a more radical nature, or to place themselves into a position out of harmony with their acquired understanding of the law and customs peculiar to their race. They didn't want no new understanding because they were set in their ways because they was older. All right. And he knew by bringing in somebody younger, he could change some things. Master Yehoshua took his seat in the Sanhedrin with all the grace and honor of a man of wide experience. And when the question of final liberation from the yoke of Rome was brought before the secret council, and the plans of Caiaphas laid bare for consideration, there was quite a tumult among the gray-haired men of the Holy Synod. However, they all, as if by mutual consent, awaited the decision of Caiaphas, who was feared by them all, although neither appreciated nor liked. Still, on account of his unlimited power as high priest, they guarded their tongues and awaited his final decision. They was all afraid of Caiaphas. He was the man with the power. A secret whisper was passed among the members of the Sanhedrin that Caiaphas had bestowed particular favors upon Yehoshua, the Nazarite, from the Galilean hills, and all eyes were turned upon him to see what path he would pursue under the direction of Caiaphas. But Yehoshua was silent. He was surprised at the schemes and designs of such a worldly nature of a body of men who were looked upon as holy. He was surprised at the schemes and designs of such a worldly nature of a body of men who were looked upon as holy and just, serving the cause of good for the promotion of the welfare of a selected and chosen people. Caiaphas broke this silence by announcing Yehoshua of Nazareth as the man selected by him to take the matter submitted before the council into further consideration, because he was the man to be recognized as suitable and capable to carry out the scheme. Yehoshua arose and replied to this introduction, declining the honor to act upon a plan with which he was not in sympathy, and beginning with Moses and the prophets laid before the council the mistakes of his people, and seeking dominion and power unbecoming men who claimed to be chosen by God as examples to be followed by the masses, who through impositions were made inferior because of a lack of opportunities. Israel was not to be a material kingdom, but a society of the Most High. It was not to govern, but to set an example unto the world that would attract admiration, while all matters economic and otherwise were to be regulated through mutual consent. In the kingdom, everybody got everything in common. Like you say right here, it's through mutual consent. He reminded the council that it was not and never had been the will of God that Israel should be a governing power. He reminded the Sanhedrin, the elders, the council, the high priests, that it was not and never had been the will of the Most High that Israel should be a governing power. He further stated that the people in their ignorance and unhealthy ambition had made the demand of Samuel that they might have a king like unto the other nations. And ever since, and more than ever before, the sins of the fathers have been visited upon their children from generation to generation. Nothing but war, pestilence, subjection, captivity, famine, and destruction have been their lot. And it was only by the mere virtue of a few that the people have been restored from time to time, as they showed a willingness to confess their sins and began to lead a better and more consistent life. That since Israel was not destined to govern, but to educate by a simple and yet a perfect life of purity, it would be a misstep to father any such plans as those proposed by Caiaphas. Now you're starting to see why Caiaphas and the high priest and all of them was against him. The only way for recognition before the world as a people will lie in superior education and grander accomplishments in the intellectual realm, thus paving the way to a better understanding of nature's eugenic and genetic laws, which would assure a superior race to come. Again, the only way for recognition before the world as a people would lie in superior education and grand accomplishment in the intellectual or the spiritual realm, thus paving the way to a better understanding of nature's eugenic and genetic laws. The laws of nature go hand in hand with the spiritual mind, because they're spiritual laws, which would assure a superior race to come. The proofs furnished by Master Yesu or Yehoshua were so convincing and so well defined that even Caiaphas seemed unable to retain his composure. For days and nights, the pros and cons of the plan were debated, and the more the objection raised as to the steps to be taken, the more tenacious and determined Caiaphas became that the plan which he had fostered for so many years should not be disrupted, but carried out, even if to accomplish the same, it became necessary to make concessions to Yehoshua. To reserve the privileges given to Yehoshua for himself had been his fondest hopes, but nothing seemed too much for Caiaphas to do to have his cherished dream of a worldwide power realized. Caiaphas was willing to go to any level to get Yehoshua on board with his plan. All right, here we go right here. Here we go right here. For 40 days. For 40 days and 40 nights, the discussions continue. For 40 days. He was tempted for 40 days and 40 nights. For 40 days and 40 nights. The discussions continued until Yehoshua felt that he had failed in his efforts and ambitions to serve humanity, felt that he had not selected the proper path, and he hungered for the liberty of those considered to be in the lower walks of life. A desire was now created in his own mind to free himself from the hands of those who attempted to lure him. A desire was now created in his own mind to free himself from the hands of those who attempted to lure him from the path which he had chosen, because they were seeking to use him as an instrument for purposes not consistent with his own convictions. However, Caiaphas did not desire to lose the friendship of Yehoshua. He was determined to win him over to his side, for he knew that if there was a man in all Israel who could sway the minds of the people, that man was Yehoshua. Caiaphas used all his power in an endeavor to gain the confidence and cooperation of Yehoshua, and failing in this, he began to appeal to him in a way that would entice the ordinary type of man. If the statements just made by you are true, then all the more is it your duty to liberate Israel, commanded Caiaphas. Alright, pay attention right here. This is the other part after the 40 days and 40 nights of being tempted by the devil. If you are, remember when the devil said, if you will be the son of God, cast yourself down from him. If you are one of the sons of the God of Israel, true to your fathers and patriarchs, command the masses who are as dull as stones. Remember when we read the part about the stones being men? If you are one of the sons of the God of Israel, true to your fathers and patriarchs, command the masses who are as dull as stones, and turn them into useful material that will be bread unto us in the generations to come. Hold on. Let me go back so we can tie this. Together. Luke chapter 4. Luke chapter 4. I want to get the exact word. Verse 3. And the devil said unto him, which now we understand this was Caiaphas talking to him, if thou be the Son of God, command this stone that it be made bread. Alright, now let's go back to the book. If you are one of the sons of the God of Israel, true to your fathers and patriarchs, command the masses who are as dull as stones, and turn them into useful material that will be bread unto us in the generations to come. You have the power, you possess the ability. Win these millstones for the grinding of our flour through the execution of our plans, and we will hunger no longer after righteousness. Neither flattery nor command would change the views of Yehoshua. He remained unmoved. Caiaphas was by no means discouraged, but he felt that he had met more than his equal, and he was willing to do his utmost. Caiaphas reminded Yehoshua of the honors already gained in the high positions yet to be attained, and showed him. Hold on. Let's go back to Luke chapter 4, verse 5. And the devil, taking him up unto a high mountain, showed unto him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. And the devil said unto him, all this power will I give thee, in the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and to whomsoever I will I give it. if thou therefore wilt worship me, all shall be thine. All right, now let's continue reading. Caiaphas reminded Yehoshua of the honors already gained and the high positions yet to be attained, and showed him from the pinnacle of man's highest ambitions what the future will have in store for him if he will only follow the suggestions given. Let yourself down among the people and labor among men, and nothing will befall you, for we will assist you in all your undertakings. You will be made commander over the armies. You will be made commander over the armies and have full power over all. The priesthood will be instructed to protect your very path, and no harm will come to you. For God needs you in this most wonderful work. Yea, we even recognize you as the man sent by the Most High to fulfill his promises. We will pledge ourselves to give you all the protection at our command, and will submit to your dictations if you but undertake the liberation of our people from the yoke of Rome. But Yehoshua refused. Yehoshua refused. But Caiaphas did not seem to waver in his determination. He still had enough perseverance left to impress Yehoshua favorably with his designs. One more surprise Caiaphas had in store for Yehoshua. Once more will Yehoshua be approached. Surely this time he would not fail. It had caused Caiaphas much nerve strain and a great deal of pain and anxiety to think of such a step. But he had found himself faced by one whose superiority could no longer be denied over himself. This much was certain, that in his last attempt, Caiaphas had lowered himself to the level of even the most despised. For no longer could he hold a position of vaunted superiority once held before Yehoshua crossed his path. Caiaphas had all the arrangements made, and the pomp and display upon this notable occasion was indeed great. So much so that there seemed no longer a doubt in the minds of the members of the Sanhedrin as to the consent of Yehoshua. Yehoshua, against his will, was seated upon the throne of Caiaphas. Was seated upon the throne of Caiaphas, and made the uncrowned king of Israel. Although uncrowned, but garbed in a purple mantle. All the members of the Sanhedrin bowed. All the members of the Sanhedrin bowed and swore allegiance to Yehoshua. And even Caiaphas knelt and pledged to sustain him in all his actions. Behind closed doors, shut in from all the world, in secrecy, and wholly inaccessible to the ears and eyes of even their most intimate friends, the Sanhedrin proclaimed Yehoshua, king of Israel, who was to lead the people in the armies of Jehovah to final victory, creating Israel a power in the land. All the resources at the command of the Sanhedrin were laid before Yehoshua. And what we read in Luke chapter 4 and verse 6, all this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and whomsoever I will, I give it. All the resources at the command of the Sanhedrin were laid before Yehoshua, and his dominion was to reach even beyond the ordinary boundary lines of the house of Jacob. As if led by some unseen power, Caiaphas consented to part with his prized possession and submitted himself to the bidding of Yehoshua. Caiaphas, who was so feared that even at the mention of his name, men would shudder, now bowed his knees before Yehoshua and begged him to accept the honor now about to be bestowed upon him. On this, the greatest of days, and listen to the announcement of the greatest of names, King of Israel, saying, all shall be thine, if thou but consistent to this plan of mine. When Yehoshua was seated upon the throne, Caiaphas approached him with due humility and condescension, and anointed his head with sacred oil poured from the urn of the sacred dove, and pronounced him the uncrowned king of Israel. Yehoshua, arising in all his majesty and greatness, made the priests and scribes tremble. Hold on. Now let's read Luke. Go back to Luke. Luke chapter 4. And now we at the part where verse 8. And Yehoshua answered and said unto him, Get thee behind me, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. So let's see it. We see Caiaphas, Satan, trying to offer him everything, all the power, all the glory of the nations and the people. Let's hear the words of our big brother. Let's see how he played them for the fool. Yehoshua, arising in all his majesty and greatness, made the priests and scribes tremble, commanding all the members of the Sanhedrin to prostrate themselves upon the floor in submission. He raised his right hand towards heaven. And turning his piercing eyes upon Caiaphas. Who stood before him in awe, thundered these words, Thou shalt serve the Lord thy God. Caiaphas had expected to receive recognition of the honor bestowed, but instead was forced to hear those terrible words, which made his senses reel. Thou shalt serve the Lord thy God. With the majestic sweep of the hands, Yehoshua threw his mantle to the floor, and descending the steps of the throne, commanded that the doors, which had heretofore been sealed, be opened. Fear and trembling fell upon the whole assembly. Chaos reigned, and the members scurried for a place of safety, some seeking refuge in the lower chambers, while others prayed for mercy, although there was nothing to harm them. The spirit scared them. Caiaphas hastily disappeared through a secret passage to his palace. It was an unexpected and complete surprise to all, and the first thought that engrossed their minds was treason. Now you see why they wanted to kill him. The first thought that engrossed their minds was treason, because he played them. Satan cannot outsmart you when you got the spirit with you. The priesthood feared that, notwithstanding the great precaution taken, they might have been outwitted, and that Yehoshua, although sufficiently tested and proven a Hebrew, might betray them to Serenus and to the government at Rome. Luke 4:12. And Yehoshua answering said unto him, It is said, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Oh, they tried him. They tried our brother, but he didn't fold. He didn't fold. It is said, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. And when the devil had ended all the temptation, he departed from him for a season. Just for a season, he departed. But as we know, Caiaphas and that council came back. They came back to try to get him. And this is why. Now we got the answer to the mystery. Because we got more to get into about the life of our brother that's been hidden from us. But it was been wrote, but it was took out of the scriptures. So now we're going to start to piece more of the puzzle pieces together so that we can get more answers and more clarity to the mysteries of the kingdom. Because the Most High reveal them to those who are true to him. So we gonna eat because the Most High feeding us. Peace.